Ova Magica mixes farming, monster battling, and life sim elements, but does it deliver on its ambitious promise? I'm Joe, a former games industry professional, and today we're reviewing Ova Magica on Steam, a cozy indie game that might just surprise you. Ova Magica is currently in early access on Steam and will be for approximately 8 to 10 months according to the dev. Claudia, an indie developer from Germany, has been working on this passion project for over 4 years, alongside Ichigo, the artist, Andy Han, the composer, and a secret writer. It could be any one of us. It could be you and you might not even know it. It might be me. The game is published by Top Hat Studios, who also handle the console development. Ova Magica is a mix of life sim, farming, and creature battling. You'll raise blobs while developing your farm. You'll battle NPCs with those blobs and develop relationships with a variety of characters. Living in a town that feels like a visual novel met a farming sim and had a baby. While the blobs and battles are a big part of the gameplay, the focus seems to lean more heavily on character interactions. As I mentioned earlier, it sometimes feels like a visual novel, with farming and battling not being as important, but there is a speed up and a skip option for dialogue, so if you have the attention span of a goldfish, you're safe. As a heads up, I am playing on the demo version of this game. As you know, I was laid off, cost of living crisis, but I still wanted to give you my thoughts on what I experienced. From the outset, Ova Magica impressed me with its smooth performance and polished feel for an early access title. Early access games tend to look like the developer took on too much, but there's a fully playable game here running smoothly. As I delved deeper, certain aspects stood out to me, both good and maybe not so. Let's start with the gameplay and mechanics. The game takes inspiration from classics like Stardew, Harvest Moon, and of course the big one, Pokémon. Now that's a winning combo idea right there. The game actually does a decent job of combining these elements and not seeming like it's 3 or 4 different games in a totem pole trench coat. The farming mechanics in the game are simple yet satisfying. You'll find yourself creating your own plots to hoe, plant, water, and harvest crops. Like Stardew, you can place anything in the box next to your house to sell overnight, making sure your farm flourishes. You're not alone either. The stars of the show, the blobs, are able to help you around the farm with various tasks. And speaking of the blobs, these are the monsters that you tame in this world. There's a lot to dive into with these blobs, so let's try and cover it quickly. You can crossbreed them and give them little traits, which is good. You can raise them to battle, and there's even a blob league with its own Gary.
Smell you later.
The blob types in this game are simple, which is good and bad. They're easy to learn, but it lacks depth. Fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. However, water is called storm in this and looks like air, so grass beating air gets a bit confusing, but that's a small minor thing. Quick detour to talk to you about the battling in this game. It's not like traditional Pokemon. It's more like Arceus or like Final Fantasy X. It's a conditional turn-based battle system, where it pauses the battle during each player's turns, but shows a timeline to detail what happens next and how each move affected the order of the battle. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is, and there's a good tutorial in this game that covers it quickly. However, battling was way too easy, and I wish the tutorial covered different moves, as I had no clue what each move did specifically. But I still ended up thrashing all of Clovertown, so don't expect an in-depth competitive battling system. This game isn't that. There also wasn't a tutorial on how the blobs level up and evolve either, so I didn't quite figure that one out. I assumed it was how often you used a move based on the UI. Away from the battling and back to the blobs. I honestly didn't like the blobs that much. Part of the appeal of Pokemon to me is forming a bond with these unique creatures that all had their own personality shine through with their design. It allows you to roleplay a little, whereas blobs are just blobs. I will say though, this could be a me problem, as Slime Rancher is a really successful game that I played. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't a fan of the slimes as it felt like there wasn't a uniqueness there. I will say, Ova Magica does allow crossbreeding to give unique appearances to each blob, which probably would end up way too hard if the blobs were unique animals with their own unique shapes and sizes. The game isn't all blobs though. Has that word lost meaning to you yet? The game also offers a strong life simulation element, and I'd argue this is the one that shines through the brightest. You can explore a town filled with unique characters with their own stories and personalities. You can build relationships with these characters, but I don't know how far that goes in terms of whether you can get married like Stardew. And I personally wouldn't want that in this game, as most of the characters look like kids. Getting around the town to talk to these people can feel quite sluggish, despite there being a fast travel system. I don't think it's the fault of this game, it's the fault of the trend at the moment where every game has to be quick. You're used to sprinting everywhere, but this game takes it a lot slower. Also, the game is slow at its core. It's a slow burner. It feels like there's not much to do at points and you're waiting for the next big thing to happen. But again, this doesn't take away from it. It's more a preference heads up to those who prefer faster paced games. The game does offer a calendar that changes the seasons and gives plenty of events and festivals, which really makes you feel like the town's alive and there's stuff to do day to day. Overall, with the gameplay and mechanics, I can 100% see this game being people's favourite. It has a great foundation for being an awesome cozy indie game. And cozy games are on the rise now, so it's come at a good time. Now, on to the visuals. I already mentioned that I wasn't the biggest blob fan, but let's talk about the character models. I wasn't a fan of how these characters were built. They felt like they were posed a bit wrong and walked a bit unnatural. I know, it's a game where you raise blobs. It's not exactly supposed to be super realism, but it put me off a little bit, and especially the fact that they don't have mouths. I have no mouth and I must scream. However, most of the character effort seems to have gone into the NPC portraits, which I must admit are a massive strength to this game and add a lot of character. The environments and the attack animations are really well done, and the game runs smoothly at higher resolutions, so it's only let down by the art style of the blobs and chibi characters, in my own personal opinion. Just a note, a personal grievance if you will. I feel like as a man with a beard, I'm always let down by the character creator in these games. Why do the beards always look so wrong? This isn't aimed at this game, it's something I've noticed with a lot of chibi, cartoon, even anime games. It must be something with the youthful look combined with a beard. Or big anime is out to get us bearded blokes, and they will not stop until we're all smooth-faced, beautiful men. Right, review. Soundtrack. Delightful, cheerful, laid back, fits the game well. I'm not a sound guy, so I'll only really point it out if the sound is absolutely tears in my eyes amazing, like Loco Roco, or awful. Ova Magica was inspired by a lot, and I did put in the title that it's Stardew cross Pokémon, which is going to attract a lot of attention considering how beloved both of those are. But I have to be honest, it doesn't quite capture the same magic of either of those games. It's a really odd feeling I can't put my finger on, but maybe it has something to do with the art style. Stardew has a very iconic 16-bit like style which just oozes heart, whereas Pokemon's an established franchise and Ken Sugimori's art is just top tier stuff. It's unfair to compare Ova Magica with the highest grossing media franchise of all time, but with Stardew it's more equal grounds, and it's fair to say that it doesn't quite hit that peak. But it doesn't have to. It's a different game, and maybe the comparisons are good for search traffic and to get people through the door, but this will ultimately leave people trying to compare rather than appreciating Ova Magica for what it is. A passion project with the potential to become become a beloved indie game, particularly for players who enjoy cozy character-driven experiences. It's not even finished either, so the final product could really make a name for itself. So, what's the final verdict? I'm recommending Ova Magica, as I'm sure it'll win over some heart out there, even if it didn't fully win over this old heart right here. Regardless of what you think of it, indie developers like Claudia are pushing the boundaries of what individuals can create, rather than big AAA companies, which is impressive in its own right, so every criticism comes with that disclaimer. The demo is available on Steam if you want to give it a go, but the full release should be coming to consoles and Steam in 2025. Since you guys made it all the way to the end, let me know in the comment section what your favourite game with monster taming is and why. I'm a Pokemon guy myself, I was pretty much born with a Game Boy in my hands, but let's hear from you. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like to let me know I'm doing the right thing. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and let me know your suggestions for content down below. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, and be sure to check back in next Friday as I'll be there again, 3 PM every Friday. I can't leave this prison I'm in. See you then.
Give me back my gamer girl, son!